Good day, everybody, and a big welcome to the GAA's National Officer podcast series. This series is here to support you as county and club officers around the country in your role as chairs, secretaries, and all the other officership roles you have. Introduce myself, first of all, Paddy Flood, Chair of the National Officer Development Committee. And for this first podcast, we're going to look at developments in the historic club of Caltra. Caltra, of course, historic as the 2004 All-Ireland Football Club champions, coming from one of the smaller clubs in the country, and to be able to achieve such greatness was a great credit to the club. I'm joined by a great from those years, Mattie Kilroy, and he will give us a little bit of a taste, first of all, of the history of the club, and then by Aidan Murray, the current chairperson of Caltra GAA. And over the course of the next little while, we're going to listen to just how Caltra is responding to the challenge of fundraising and developing their club in modern times. But I'm going to begin, Mattie, with going back a little bit to the past. Could you just give us an indication of the history and the proud place of Caltra in Galway and in Irish GAA circles?
Well, Galway, Caltra is a very small parish in East Galway. We go back a long way in the GAA. We celebrated our 100th in 1998, so we were formed in 1898. We've had a long tradition of playing football, mainly at junior level and minor level, and had wins at juvenile level through the 50s, 60s. We were only in 3 senior finals. One, a team from Castle French from the parish was in a final in 1912. And Caltra itself was in a final, senior final in 1975. We lost to Father Griffin's. And then in 2003, we were back in the final again, and we beat Kilroy Pádraig Joyce's club to win our first county final ever, and went on to win the Club All-Ireland. It was a fantastic achievement for a small rural parish, and a small number of families involved in the whole team. And then in 2006, we were defeated in the county final again by Corofin. And currently maybe struggling a small bit. We're back down at intermediate, but doing very well at juvenile level, and a lot of work going in Gaelic football. So we're still there, strong enough to come back up again, and hopefully maybe in my lifetime we might win another Club All-Ireland. I don't know.
Wow. That team, Mattie, it was peppered by a good few Mehans and Kilroys. How many of each was there involved on that fateful day?
There were 5 Meehan lads. You had Enda was full back, and you had Tomas at midfield, and Dick at wing back, and Noel and Michael in the forwards. And you had Seamus in the substitutes. That's 6. And then there were 4 Kilroys. There was Kevin was in goal, Brian was corner back, Colin was wing half forward, and Cahill was in the subs.
Excellent.
But there were other, you know.
And what do those days mean to Kilroy, not to Kilroy, but to Caltra today? What does that achievement of an All-Ireland, how does it still rest in the parish of Caltra?
Well, we still look back with great pride in having gone all the way in the 1 year. It probably was something once in a lifetime that, you know, will happen in a small village like Caltra. But I was still looked on with great pride and great, you know, enjoyment that was given throughout the whole year. We had a great following. In actual fact, on Croke Park Day, the gates had to be opened. The crowds outside were forcing the gates in, and the gates had to be opened. And believe it or not, at the club final, there was 43,000 people. And a lot of them had come from England and America and abroad and at home and all parts of Ireland. You know, we got a tremendous backing from all of Galway. We have to say that too.
And that diaspora you have, it's going to be very relevant to later on in our conversation this evening. Aidan, you're the current chairman. When you hear of those heady days, no pressure on the chair, but could you give us an idea just of how the club has developed in more recent times and how you're sitting at the centre of the community there in Caltra?
Yeah, look at Paddy, that there's no doubt, but 2004 will live long in the memory. But like everything else, it is now part of our history, never to be taken away, which is brilliant. But you must also look forward. And, you know, we made a conscious decision in, we'll say, 2008, 2009, that we needed to expand our facilities. And we were a bit landlocked where we were. And then we had extra teams coming on stream. The Ladies Club was formed in 2001. And then every club had additional underage teams added back in that day. You know, previous to that, clubs would start their underage program at under 14, but you're down at under 6 and under 5 level now. So we needed extra facilities, and we purchased 18 acres of ground on the edge of the village in 2010. And at the time, we made a 20% down payment on it. The remainder was taken out via a 20-year mortgage. And we also made a conscious decision at the time that, you know, we wouldn't incur any further debt as part of the development process. And we've held firm in that commitment throughout. And I suppose we've achieved that through a multitude of fundraising initiatives. We've explored almost every fundraiser that there is known. We've done the common one, we've done development draws, we have done auctions. We've also done a sponsored cycle from Croke Park to Caltra, which was a great achievement in itself. We've done the Oscars. So we've tried to be varied in our selection of fundraisers. Because
that's amazing, isn't it, Aidan, all the stuff that you've done. Just give us an idea as well, Aidan, because I've been speaking to yourself and Mattie last week of just how much the club is at the centre of Caltra and what the facilities mean to the community around you there in Caltra.
Yeah, and I suppose Caltra is similar to many other rural communities and villages in what we have at our disposal. But the GAA club and the facilities right now are the hub of Caltra, and we're very lucky in the sense that the development has two stages to it. It has the GAA side, but it also has a very large community side to it. And when I say a community side, I talk about a wonderful community centre, a play school and a playground, all of which have been delivered via community groups and managed by community groups. And then on the same development from a GAA perspective, we have our 2 new pitches, clubhouse, walking track, floodlights, and our feature wall as well. So it brings, essentially from the outset, we set ourselves a target that we will cater for all our social, sporting and cultural needs on one site. And thankfully we've been able to deliver on that. And that's been achieved through a huge community effort, I would have to say.
Excellent. Mattie, for somebody who's been in Caltra all your life, I'm sure this must make a big difference from 2-year-olds to the more senior members of the parish in Caltra.
Absolutely. It brings the entire community together. You have the Bridge Club. We never had a Bridge Club until quite recently. We have the Athletic Club. Yeah, we have the other organisations like the Drama Club come in. We have the play school, the parents coming into the play school, parents coming into the playground. Look at the GAA ground is the centre of attraction for the whole community, and a lovely thing for the community because, you know, as Aidan has said, we got the community behind us to provide, first of all, a community centre, a beautiful community centre that can be used by all the teams, indoor training, right through the winter. If you were there tonight, there's probably an under 13 or 14 team playing football as well as training. And, you know, it has brought the whole community together. And, you know, we're very proud of that because I think bringing the community with you is so important. And, you know, if there was a funeral in Caltra tomorrow, the GAA club would organise the Guard of Honour. That's the thing.
No doubt about it whatsoever, Mattie, and that gives a real sense.
Support of the community as well, you know.
Wow. And I think then we came to a point, Aidan, where you mentioned all the fundraising, and the question was, what can we do next? And you mentioned then the feature wall, the feature commemorative wall that's there in Caltra now came up as an idea. And for many clubs and counties around Ireland, they're going to be saying, what's this wall all about? You might just introduce a little bit, Aidan, as to what the wall is, how it came about, and what it's there to achieve.
Yeah. So we were searching at the time for a new initiative. So essentially, because the development has been to such a large scale, Paddy, we've done it on a phase basis, and we've delivered the different phases as we went from 2010 onwards. And we were at a stage now where we had our 2 pitches in, but we needed to get matching funding for our walking track. We needed to get matching funding for floodlights, put ball stops in place. There were a number of projects we'd identified which would require a sizable amount of funding to finish what we would call the GAA development almost. And so we came up with the idea of a feature wall, but it's not an original idea in that our great friends in Saxfield's Hurling Club, New in Bullon, they already had done this a number of years back. They pioneered the concept as far as I know. So we met with them to get an understanding of what it involved, and they were very open and honest and gave us great learnings on how to go about this. So then, you know, we set about putting the wall in place itself. And about a number of years ago, we put in place 2 steering groups to manage the finance sector and then the development sector of the club itself. And the steering group were then instrumental in delivering the feature wall project, because when you go at something of this scale, you've got to manage it properly. And there were a number of elements to that. And I suppose the initial part of it was to get everybody to understand, like you said, what is the wall? What
is the wall, Aidan?
Yeah, so it's a limestone wall with individual inscribed plaques on it. Okay, so you buy your plaque. The fee is set at €250. The reason behind that is it qualifies to be approved as a revenue project, which you can claim back tax on if the candidate allows you to do so. And we had set a target of 408 plaques on the wall.
Wow.
So the success of it for me is a testimony to the fact that we actually sold 456. So I suppose you'd ask the question, how do you go about getting 456 people to part with €250? And again, you've got to be methodical in how you approach that. And we decided from the outset that nobody should be left out in the parish and the wider community. So we set about a door-to-door sales team going around and making contact with everybody. But in order to get a clear message out there, we developed a brochure. And the brochure, it told the story of the development to date, the amount of money that we invested in the various parts of it, the key milestones in it, and then we had a target of 100,000 from this project, and we outlined exactly where we would invest that money, you know, once we had delivered it. So that was a key part as well of giving everyone a clear picture, but also we had a 3D design of the wall on the brochure to give everybody an understanding of what it would look like and what their plaque would look like. So then the next step is the sales part itself, which we're lucky we have a lot of great volunteers.
I just hold you there, Aidan, before we go on to the sales part, because I'm interested to know from the point of view of the wall. Mattie, who's on the wall? Is it deceased people? Is it people who are still alive? Is it big companies? What names do we see on the wall?
Well, no, we decided at the very beginning we were not going to commercial companies. This was going to be a family thing. It was going to be for the local people. We sold very few outside the parish. We sold mainly to householders and to families. We also made sure that if there were a number of people working within a household, that each of them tried to buy a plaque each. And I say that there was a danger we might only get 1 plaque from a house. Instead of that, some houses we got 5 and 7 plaques.
So there was no flies on you.
And we also touched on people that had left the parish or whose parents, you know, had died, and the people are now gone from the parish, but they would like them to be remembered. And we certainly targeted those, and we were absolutely very surprised with the success of that end of the project, because they were snapped up pretty quickly. As Aidan said, 406 was the original target, and we ended up with 456. I think we could have gone on for another 100 if we wanted to, but no, we had said finals 456 was the final target. We were finishing there, and we have the families of the parishes. We have people who have left the parish, who were extinct from the parish in many ways, but at the same time their family wanted their parents remembered. We had people from diaspora from abroad who bought plaques for their local parents who had passed on, and to make sure that their names were remembered. So it wasn't a commercial thing. We didn't go to companies. There are a number of organisations from around the parish and within the parish who did purchase plaques, and we placed all them at the very bottom of the wall so that they're identified as organisations rather than people.
That's lovely, Mattie, and it must be really nice for people all over the diaspora. Some of those people who were part of that 43,000 odd back in Croke Park in 2004 to be remembered and to be honoured on the wall in Caltra. And I'm just wondering, Aidan, what has the reaction been to that from those who have subscribed, and indeed from the wider community? What do people talk about when they talk about the feature wall?
Yeah, and just to expand a small bit on it, Paddy, and Mattie alluded to the various people and families and diaspora that purchased, and we got a wonderful support from the entire community. But I suppose, the club is very much about your tradition, it's about your history, it's about your identity, and that was very important to us, that, where do you come from, your identity, that you have a name, you have a placeholder where you come from, and that's what the wall does. But equally importantly, any of us are only just passing through, and we can have an impact on our club as we do so. We have many great games that have gone before us that have made a lasting impression on us, whether as players, coaches, mentors, administrators, officers. And there are many of those remembered on the wall where the families bought a plaque in honour of them. And I think it's wonderful that their names will be there forevermore as part of our club and part of our history. And I think that's a lovely part of the wall as well, okay? So for many people as well and families, it was an opportunity for them to do that. So on the opening day itself, a lot of the families and people can. Look, the wall has been in progress for quite some time, because you don't inscribe 456 plaques overnight. And indeed, great credit goes to Brendan Dervin on the craftsmanship of the wall itself and the product that he delivered. And that's important as well. We were very conscious that in any project you do, deliver quality, because people, when they support you, they expect to see a quality product. And that's what they got in this case. So everybody has been delighted when they come and they see the wall. It's also a feature forevermore, in that I envisage that going forward, any of our games, our teams where we have take photograph opportunities, they will most likely be done in front of the wall.
Wow, so it's much more than just a fundraiser. It really is part of the tradition of Caltra GAA. It's part of who you are, and it's part of the pride. And I think that's really important for the club officers listening in here today to realise that Caltra has gone beyond just fundraising. But I think, again, that's why the fundraising was so successful. The idea was one that caught hold with people, as Mattie said there, at home and abroad. Aidan, you mentioned, though, you were, and I cut into you a few minutes ago, about just how do you go about organising a fundraiser of this scale? Like, for a small club to come up with a fundraiser that's going to exceed 100,000, a lot of people are sitting back and going, wow. And it's not just the wall, but it's the organisation that you've been able to bring into this to deliver that type of project. The idea is brilliant, but the organisation has to be good as well.
Yeah, I suppose just before I go into that, and Mattie spoke earlier about the whole 2004 experience, and what marks 04 for us as well is the calibre of the opposition that we face in the All-Ireland. And Gaels are a marvellous club. And true to the wonderful sportsmanship that they have always exhibited, and Gaeltacht bought a plaque on the wall. And I think that's a lovely thing as well. They are there forevermore. I think that's a testament to the Gaeltacht club and the sportsmanship that they have always displayed. And you know, any contact we've had with them since have been extremely cooperative in any of our dealings with them. I think that's a special thing in the GAA, Paddy, that you know their name is going to be on our wall forevermore.
That's a big shout out to the members of the Gaeltacht club. Dubber me and Shin the blade to him when you're Gaeltacht, so it's great that you're so much recognised by Caltra. Go ahead, Aidan.
So then on the you're right, to deliver a project like that, it needs a lot of project planning and management. So, you know, we had a good story to tell as well, in that we were coming towards the end of our development project, and our brochure detailed the progress made from day one, the number of key milestones we delivered, the level of expenditure that we had incurred over that time without taking on any extra debt. And, you know, right now at this point in time, in the GAA portion of the development, we have spent €1 million at this point in time. And that's a breakdown of funding that we will have received through the Capital Sports Programme, the Leader Funding Programme, the Provincial Council funding, but then the greatest portion, you know, over 640,000 of it has been supplied through our various fundraising initiatives. So we had track record, we had history on how to deliver on it. But then, look, we had, as I said, a steering group of 4 guys who took the initiative on, you know, managing the project, calling the meetings, mapping out the routes. So as we said, we went to every house in the parish. So we mapped out our routes and got our station areas, and the sales teams went door to door. And when we that completed, we went to the wider community. And once we had that done, we then reached out. We went through our various files and histories of past players and families, and we reached out to those who no longer reach in the parish and in the diaspora. We also promoted heavily on our social media outlets like Facebook, etc., and through our various WhatsApp groups to the parents of all the underage teams. And it was a positive story from day one. And we got a very positive uptake from the outset. But at the same time, in any project like that, Paddy, you've got to see it out. And even down to the fact of the proofreading, we spent quite an amount of time on proofreading to ensure that everyone's name was spelled correctly, that there were no mistakes, that everybody was, you know, in format throughout the wall. So overall, it's been an excellent success because, you know, it's twofold. It delivered on the 100,000 target, but it's given us a feature now forevermore. And, you know, the centre piece of the wall contains our crest and our roll of honour, which details, you know, titles we've won at the various county, kind of provincial, into the All-Ireland series, and it includes both the men's, the ladies, and our score.
Excellent. And Aidan, is there any 1 or 2 nuggets of advice you would give a club that's sitting here listening to yourself and Mattie and thinking, wow, we wouldn't mind having a go at that? Maybe where did it start, and what did you learn most that you would like to pass on to any other club considering this?
Yeah, look, and again, it's great to learn from others. And I mentioned it earlier, the 2 guys in Sarsfield were a brilliant help to us when we went to view their wall. And it can be hard to visualize, Paddy, what the wall is going to look like. But when you do see it, then you'll understand how it's going to fit into your own club and your own environment. So that's important. I would say to anyone who is a real interest in doing it, that they should make contact with a club that has done it already. And it's the same with any funding initiative that clubs run. They typically try to tap into other clubs that have done something similar. And again, that's the great thing about the GAA community. We're great to share. You know, we might be rivals on the pitch, but off it, we share our good news stories, and we're there to help other clubs to let them achieve the same. Look at thereafter, there's no secret to success when it comes to project development, to fundraising. It's footfall, it's feet on the ground, it's work, and I suppose for any group taking it on, they have to be willing to have those weekly meetings, to stay focused, and to deliver on their promises to the people. You have to deliver.
Mattie, it seems to me like, being a Caltra man, as we mentioned for quite a while now, the club seems to be in a really good space, but in very good hands with Aidan and the current committee.
I have to say that we have been very lucky to have a chairman like Aidan, who is a good director and shares out the work to people, and he demands the work of people. His action at the very beginning to form 2 subcommittees, a finance committee and a field development committee. They were 2 very good committees, and we got people that were committed on both of them. And I think that was a great help to the project. I have to remind you that we also won a Junior Ladies All-Ireland in 2009. And again, for a small parish, that has been fantastic. Our neighbours here, Kilkerran, Clonberne, are off into the next final again. I think they got their tightest match this year from Caltra in County Galway. So it just shows that the ladies have come on board with this as well. And it's a very important part of the club, because I think the participation of the ladies in our development has been tremendous as well. And we see them, I know there's great talk about integration of ladies and gents and the 3 sister organisations. I think that's something that happened in our club about 10 years ago. We are the one club, we have the one facilities for them all, for the community. And, you know, that has been a great plus as well, you know.
Yeah, and for anybody joining us here, like, you know, one of the really great things about Caltra is just not success on the field, but the manner in which you have galvanized an entire community, what you mean to the community, but also what's really relevant, I think, Mattie, from what you said, there was that sense of planning, really well planned out facilities, planned out activities that's going on around the place, linkages with the community.
Yeah.
Aidan, where do you go from here? Like, you know, a lot has been achieved. You're pretty much cleared as you go, and you paid your way as you go along. And in the modern world, where do you see the next steps for Caltra's club?
Yeah, and I suppose, look, at the first thing, Paddy, would be to, you know, put on record our sincere thanks to everybody involved in the project from start to finish. And I would be here for hours listing out those that have contributed in so many ways. And we're extremely lucky with the volunteer base that we have. And I mean, ultimately, that's the bloodline and the success of any club is your volunteers, because they do the unselfish work week in, week out, on the pitch, off the pitch. And it's the lifeline of any of our clubs. But look, it is a continuous
just on that,
program.
Aidan, there's going to be clubs listening in here, and they're going to say, well, volunteer recruitment and holding on to volunteers, it's nearly one of the most challenging thing in a modern club, in order to be able to have that army of volunteers and to hold on to them. What is it about Caltra that means that you get those volunteers to hold in there, to grow, and to be such a powerful army for your club?
Look, I don't know if there's any secret to it. I mean, you have to, I go back to that identity, Paddy, and there is no doubt that 2004 has helped with that identity. You know, we keep telling our current players and the young lads coming through that, you know, they need to make their own history. They need to make their own ways, their own successes. And really, your volunteers, you need to get them in at the underage level. You know, when the parents come with the child initially, and we have a very good structure in place in our juvenile set up there at the moment, and our coaching officer, Noel, does great work on bringing people into the club at that early stage, getting them involved, and, you know, giving them a reason to stay involved. But above all, it's that sense of appreciation. You've got to appreciate every volunteer and every worker in the club, because they're giving their time selflessly. look, we don't get it right all the time, Paddy, nor does any organisation. And I suppose we're just an example of what can be achieved from a development perspective. But one thing we have set ourselves targets as we went. We don't just accept that, you know, it'll be okay, sure, you know, the facilities we have will do. Mm-hmm. If you want to succeed and you want to provide for the players of tomorrow, you really have to provide the facilities. You have to give them, you know, somewhere to go. And we're finding that our underage numbers are increasing over the last number of years. I'm not saying that's all down to the development. But it has certainly helped. It's one of the factors that has helped us to grow our numbers again at the underage levels, which is very positive at the moment for us.
Yeah, it sounds, I suppose, again, without repeating ourselves, that sense of wanting to belong is very, very important in Caltra, and where your GAA club is the one that provides a sense of belonging that the entire community can feel welcome in. I think there's no space really to lose volunteers in a small club. You've got a gang of people there that is driving change forward. I'm going to ask, is there any one development that either of you two guys would like to see happen? One thing you would prioritise for future?
Well, we have targeted. See, at the moment we have a clubhouse that has 4 dressing rooms in it, external toilets, etc. And one of the dressing rooms at the moment is being used as a gym area. But we have plans to build a standalone gym. And again, it's looking at that whole performance factor of teams and how you improve your ability to perform at all the different age levels. So that's the next stage, which, you know, we're asking our players, both male and female, to really drive that process of building a gym over the next 6 months to a year, Paddy, to help us improve our performance again. But I would also say that, look, the community aspect of the development is key, because parents can come and drop their kids at training now. They don't have to leave. They can go for a walk. Even at night time, there's street lighting on it. They can bring the younger kids into the playground. There's plenty of room around the facility itself. So they don't have to drop and go. They can stay there while the child is training and enjoying themselves. So again, it's creating that family atmosphere where people have something to do, and that's important.
Mattie, have you anything final to add to that?
No, I'd say Aidan has set the target that the gym is the next project. I'm sure after that we'll have to look at possibly a stand of some sort or other. That will probably come in the years ahead. Just that everything doesn't go as smooth as you'd like it to be. When we bought the 18 acres at the very beginning, we had a roadside and we were hoping to sell 6, 7 sites, and it was going to pay for everything. Unfortunately, that didn't work out for us. In a rural area, at that stage, you'd be given 50, 60,000 for a site. After that, when, you know, things fell apart, we couldn't see anyone buying a site or anyone building a house in the parish. But that might change again. That set us back slightly, and, you know, it maybe spurred you on more, and it helped us. And the 2004, we won a car. And, you know, Aidan and Rachel, the rest of us, we gathered one night and we said, what are we going to do with the car? We're going to raffle it to see, can we raise funds for new facilities? We put 2 people on every road out of the village. And we sold €20 tickets. And we took in £122,000. But as Aidan has already adhered to, it was a great group of people that worked night after night quietly to make sure that we sold as many tickets as we possibly could. And, you know, that developed later as we provided the facilities. We got blocklayers, plasterers, electricians who came in and gave of their time voluntary, because part of the funding that we received from Europe under Galway Rural Development and Rural Development, you could do some of the work yourself. And even on the wall, we were so lucky to get people to come in and work and get the wall built before the contractor came to put on his limestone plaques. That was again part of the community identity with the project, and to say, look, I did my little bit there. And that was important. Even if you only lifted a shovel for 2.5 hours, you did something to help the project.
And Mattie, it sounds to me like it was almost a blessing that the ass fell out of the market for sites, because as a result of that, you got all that extra effort, you got people together,
Correct,
working together, and as discussed this evening, you've had the feature wall, which we can proudly show to any club or county in Ireland as a fantastic example of how a club that's well run, well managed, and has got vision and foresight can provide for the boys, the girls, the older people, the younger people, and all generations in the community. Anybody listening in can only but marvel at what Caltra has achieved. Thanks to your generosity, we'll also have some resources, pictures and brochures, etc. on the website showing what you did and giving examples for others to use. But on behalf of all the officers in all parts of Ireland who sat in here today listening to both Mattie and to Aidan, it's a big thanks. And we were never more sure that an entire parish is in great hands as it is in Caltra, with Aidan, with Mattie, but with all the committee and the community that drives Gaelic games in Caltra and in Galway. Gurmaigh go Birch. It's a big thank you to all, and we'll be looking forward to joining you again with some more new ideas around club activities in the next episode of our podcast here. So for now, Slán agus Gurmaigh goes Ben Liv.